So we've landed in the Wargaming booth here at Gamescom to find out a little bit more about one of the big games on the show floor out there. Obviously, Germans love their war games, so it's got to be a big market for you guys to bring World of Warplanes out here.
Yeah, definitely. No, we're really excited about having the game here. Last year, World of Tanks took really the industry and the world by storm, and then we sort of gave people a little sneak peek of World of Warplanes. This year at Gamescom, we're really focusing on Warplanes. We're excited to show people what we have. Like, what we're really focusing on now is, right now the game is in closed beta. Hundreds of thousands of players have signed up and are playing the game, giving us great feedback on helping us make it better, helping make sure that it's a great experience. And this year at Gamescom, we're showing off some really cool stuff for the game. Most notably, we're showing off a new upgraded module system. So up to this point in closed beta, we just had the planes. You couldn't upgrade them, but it was just really to give players a sense of how the planes were, how they flew, and what they were like. A couple weeks ago, we introduced a new upgrade module system that sort of gives players a little more control in terms of how they want to customize their plane. Each plane will have different presets of customization modules. They're going to change things like what kind of weapons you have, what kind of planes, what kind of fuselages, and things like that. And those things sort of affect how the plane flies, how it reacts, how it feels when the player is really playing them, you know. And we're excited to see what players think about it.
How will that system work? Is it going to be driven by microtransactions, or is it unlockable as you progress with your
Yeah, that's a really good question. So if you're familiar with World of Tanks and how the sort of research and upgrade system works, and that is that you sort of spend your experience and you spend your currency to sort of research higher and higher tiers of technology and upgrades. In World of Warplanes, it's going to operate really similarly to that. At this point in the closed beta now, though, you're only going to use credits to basically unlock these module systems, and in the future we're looking at having players actually have the ability to do two things. Right now the module system is really just basically cut and dry. You find one you like, it has a predetermined set of content, engines, machine guns, rockets, different options, and you can't really change them. It's really sort of focused towards players that are new to the game, who may not have a lot of the knowledge in terms of how those different components are different from the stuff that you've been using before, and they may just want a really simple, easy way to change their plane and see what it's like. In the future, though, when the game finally releases, players will be able to actually go in to those modules and customize specific parts of it as well. So, you know, we're really trying to cater the system to the new folks, but at the same time, give a little more depth to the veterans who play the game a lot.
So could you give like a specific example of a plane and how it differs between the different sort of options?
Sure.
That you get?
So like, take for example the P-51 Mustang, a really famous American plane from World War II. The default sort of I'd say loadout for that plane is how you probably imagine the plane looking back when you've seen footage of it in pictures and movies and such. The highest upgrade for that plane is actually going to change some of the features about it. It's going to change sort of the wing design, it's going to change the engine casing, and it's all sort of reflective of how the plane is going to operate in the real world. Probably one of the most cool things for me about the module system is that each plane is going to have a certain number of unique modules that are actually based on history. So each module that you can choose from, it's not just going to be like a random assortment of different upgrades that we decided would be a cool thing to include, but each one is going to be based on an actual model of that plane throughout history. So that last sort of upgrade set for the P-51 Mustang, that was actually used during World War II. So, you know, for people who really sort of like the authentic history, the authentic sort of attention to detail, that stuff is going to be in the game.
So now that you're about to get your second game launched, how's the infrastructure working out? And is it going to be like one experience, like logging into Battle.net? Is that what you're aiming for?
So yeah, we get asked that question a lot. So this past E3, we actually announced the Wargaming.net service, and so what that is it's a unified online experience. So right now in World of Tanks, World of Warplanes, you have a login, username, password. You're going to have a single login for all three games. So you just have to log in, you're going to go in, you're going to have access to all three games right from the start. Ultimately, the goal is to really sort of bridge those experiences together. So when World of Warplane does launch, you're going to be able to take currency and credits from World of Tanks and apply them directly in some way to World of Warplanes. So if it's the first time you're playing World of Warplanes, but you've been playing World of Tanks for years, you're going to be able to sort of go into this new game experience and have the resources to kind of get in a little bit faster, research some planes, and sort of have a little more fun. And ultimately, definitely, you know, when World of Warships comes out too, we're going to integrate that into the Wargaming.net experience as well. So from a gameplay perspective, if you're familiar with World of Tanks, we have sort of a global domination map. And in that mode, it's basically groups of players trying to sort of take control over regions of a map. When World of Warplanes comes out, we're going to add the layer of the air to that map, so you're going to be able to see, okay, the global domination map, this is how it's broken down by tanks, but this is how it's also broken down by planes. And then when warships comes along, we're going to add the sea. You know, we get asked a lot, I guess, from a lot of people, like, what about unifying all three experiences into one in the actual game? Ultimately, you know, that's definitely sort of an end goal for us, but that's pretty far down the line. You know, warships isn't going to, we're not looking at warships coming out until next year, and World of Warplanes isn't even out yet. So before we can sort of take the next step of putting all three games together, we got to make sure that all three games come out, they're as good as they can be, and that the players really love them.
And you sort of touched on it. The roadmap ahead with World of Warplanes, what's it like now? What are you sort of expecting to come next, and sort of when does the beta open up completely?
So right now we're in closed beta. Definitely this year we're going to be into open beta. Release date we're not saying yet. We're still shooting for 2012, but right now we're just trying to get as much info and feedback from the closed beta so we can roll that into open.
Right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure.